Because our control of academia, Hollywood, and the media is just not enough. This is your more intensive session of
Progressive Indoctrination.
Hate speech is any speech that impedes our agenda. Your correct feelings, not facts, will be your truth. All wisdom and truth and equality is found in a centralized and powerful progressive governance. Your progressive leaders care about you.
Hi, thank you for joining us for this session of your Progressive Indoctrination, your safe space place for no euphemism instruction on how to be a smug, virtue-signaling progressive. I'm he, she, it, and you ain't, your gay, transgender, transracial, and species-fluid host, who, along with Mr. Subliminal Voice,
I will be your inner voice.
will be your go-to source for how to feel the correct way about contemporary issues as we work together for a truly progressive, fair, equal outcome-based, opposing viewpoint-free, utopian America. For today's session of Progressive Indoctrination, I'm going to instill in you how to feel about that silly freedom of religion portion of the First Amendment. One of several amendments which those white, privileged, misogynist, slave-owning victimizers that authored the Constitution included in that antiquated document. Those same oppressive patriarchal haters that falsely asserted in the Declaration of Independence that our rights come from some fairy tale god instead of far left-wing progressive politicians, judges, and bureaucrats who deign to rule over us. Yes, the same narrow-minded, objective truth-advocating bigots that wrote the First Amendment to say, quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, unquote. We'll talk about that establishment thing on another day, but for now, keep in mind that as a progressive, it is more virtuous for you to feel right about an issue rather than waste valuable time evaluating it with silly critical thinking. So, let's focus on how to correctly feel about that portion of the First Amendment regarding the so-called free exercise of religion by those backward simpletons that actually believe there's a God. As tolerant progressives, we're sometimes compelled to interact with those unsophisticated, inbred, redneck, knuckle-dragging, intolerant Christians and other religious bigots who don't share our enlightened postmodernist contempt for their Judeo-Christian God of that silly fairy tale book they call the Bible. Our fellow progressives, the lesbians Rachel Cryer and Laurel Bowman, have successfully modeled for us what to do in just such situations. Back in 2013, the hate-filled Christian owners of Sweet Cakes Bakery, the vile Melissa and Aaron Klein, politely declined to bake a wedding cake for Rachel and Laurel, claiming that the practice of their silly religion did not allow them to. It seems that the hater bigots Melissa and Aaron assert that their God says two women diddling each other is a sin.
The only sin is the failure to embrace progressivism.
They also claimed that their fairy tale God commands and that the science of biology dictates. More of that insipid critical thinking. that marriage can only occur between a man and a woman. In response to the client's outrageous insistence on freely exercising their silly religion according to the dictates of their own consciences, Rachel and Laurel didn't just go to one of many alternative God-rejecting bakeries owned by a fellow progressive. No, 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 no. They demonstrated their righteous tolerance and inclusiveness by filing a civil rights complaint with the progressive-dominated state of Oregon. Fortunately for them, and all the rest of us progressives, a progressive administrative judge rejected the antiquated notion of being able to freely exercise a stupid religion according to the dictates of the religious person's own conscience. In so doing, the judge reinforced the more tolerant, progressive idea that if you're backward enough to be religious, you are only allowed to practice your religion according to the dictates of the consciences of members of progressive-approved victim groups. To drive home the point, the judge ordered the vile Kleins to pay a whopping $135,000 in fines to Rachel and Laurel.
Crucify them.
As a result, the hate-filled and intolerant Kleins were forced out of business, and we progressives have another victory for tolerance, inclusiveness, and diversity. So, what have we learned today in this session of Progressive Indoctrination? We've learned that when faced with the choice of choosing a small business that embraces our progressive vision of tolerance or one owned by ignorant, hate-filled, and intolerant, knuckle-dragging Christians,
Feed them to the lions.
we have an obligation as progressives to demonstrate our commitment to tolerance, inclusiveness, and diversity by driving the Christians and other backwards religious bigots out of business.
Death to all Christians.
Well, that's all we have time for today. Be sure to join us again next time for your next session of
Progressive Indoctrination.